juncture, this unfortunate juncture. I think many people would agree. And then he's going to be leading a panel discussion of experts on the same subject. How do we unblock the ad blocking conundrum? And I will bring him up now. All right.
Well, thank you. Good morning. It's too cold in here. Those questions you had for Eamon were good. I mean, they weren't great. You're not trained professional journalists as I am. And is he still in the room? Where is he? Oh, okay, yeah. When I last saw you in Austin about a year and a half ago, you were also wearing a gingham shirt. You're wearing gingham today. Would you characterize this as a coincidence, or would you say you're a confirmed gingham wearer?
Well, that's a really tough one, Bob.
Yeah, well,
I
truth
actually,
to power, my friend.
What you did
truth
remember
to power.
Is I religiously usually wear my red pants. Well, first of all, I was at a conference last week, I had to wash them, so they weren't ready.
No, I'm sorry.
And secondly, I wasn't sure if red pants were going to go down well in the Ocean Reef Club. I wasn't quite sure on the dress code.
No, you could be actually taken into custody, unless there were ducks on it or something. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's nice to see you here. My brief is very simple. We're going to do a panel on ad blocking, and my job is to frame the conversation. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to frame my ass off, and I want to begin with a little thought experiment. And it begins with the question, why do Americans pay their taxes? Those are your choices. Okay, you got the, Okay, now I have a follow-up question for you. Are Greeks, Russians, Serbs, Spaniards, and Brazilians inherently less aware of financing their governments? Are they without a sense of the social contract? Are they ignorant of the value exchange, what the government provides with their tax payments? Come on, you know the answer. It's for exactly the same reason that a dog licks his private parts. The Greek taxpayer can flout the law without fear. The law, not some sort of gentleman's agreement or unspoken compact, it's the freaking law, and the penalty is prison, and yet they don't pay. In those countries, the economies are so shadowy, and the bureaucracy is so helpless, and the culture of impunity so ingrained, that tax evasion brings very little risk of detection, much less jail. In direct proportion with laxity of enforcement around the world, civic duty goes begging. Civilization, of course, is the subordination of personal interest to the interest of the community, and it works pretty well, unless nobody's looking. Then it tends to be every man for himself. Shorting the tax man is no different than flicking boogers on the carpet, speeding on the interstate, or failing to sort your recyclables. Never mind the other folks, never mind the rules. If it feels good and you can get away with it, just do it. Now, what if the economic model were based on a quid pro quo that wasn't the law? That wasn't a rule, wasn't a deal, wasn't a contract, legal or social. The model depended on a value exchange involving you personally, but you, citizen, had never ever been asked for your consent, let alone your signature on the dotted line. What would you call that? It is a tax. For hundreds of years, it depended on your attention, however grudging, in exchange for free or subsidized content. The attention tax was a fair tax. It was a good tax. It was an enormously lucrative tax for all four parties: media, marketers, agencies, consumers, who all depended on it. But the consumers never agreed to pay that tax. True, they didn't opt out like Greek non-taxpayers, which the advertising and publishing industries somehow interpreted as satisfaction. Oh, they love us. But consumers never did express satisfaction. Quite the contrary. They didn't flout the attention tax because they couldn't. Now, with ad blockers, the formerly captive consumer is evading the attention tax with breathtaking speed and righteousness. Now, that slide is of a fallout shelter, and it's not supposed to be there. And it really, this really frightens me. And I'll tell you why, if you just permit me to move away from my prepared text. It frightens me because a much earlier, much less complete version of this presentation had that slide in it. And I do not know what's going to happen. I do not know what's going to happen when I press this button again. And honestly, I'm scared. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very scared. Let me just go back here for a second. Okay, just speed and righteousness. Okay, and there's speed and righteousness. They're blocking ads because, I think we're back. And it's costing everybody a fortune. The dollar value continues to go up with each industry pronouncement, but the most recent estimate of the cost of ad blocking to the media economy is a blank screen. It is a blank screen. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, let me tell you what my script says. Oh, I don't know how this happened. But in any event, that screen should say the words 368 fucktillion dollars. It was such a great slide, and it's clearly not there. And moreover, I might hasten to add that none of the slides that I see the picture of on my script are going to be there either. Not a one. So we're going to see how this goes. Oh, goodness gracious. Anyway, that's round numbers, 368 fucktillion. It depends on who's measuring. The question is, at whom to point a finger? It's not right. Let's try that. Whose fault is it that ad blockers are the 21st century's version of DDT and as indiscriminately deployed, ridding us of a pestilence, pop-ups, autoplay, slow loads, remnant spam, malware, but also doing grave harm to the useful ad species and the publishing ecosystem as a whole? Is it advertisers? They inundate us with both highly interruptive junk of no personal relevance and creepily targeted or retargeted pitches that are so personally relevant they give us the heebie-jeebies. They've all but abandoned attempts at thoughtful engagement versus various ways of maneuvering between us and the content until we can fumble to X them out of our way. Is it the publishers? As they moved online, they put all their chips on advertising, which had made them, which is to say, you, so obscenely profitable for 3 centuries. But they failed to reckon with a few important realities. One, much of their audience scale would be trash audience with no value to advertisers. 2, the glut of online content supply would be paralleled by a glut in ad inventory, driving down prices and necessitating even more clutter. 3, people hate ads, hate them. Once again, ads have never been never been anything but what we have to put up with in order to get the free and subsidized content we do want. Essentially, all ads are spam. And 4, by going all in on this strategy, they cemented the notion that all content deserves to be free, not only given license to the public to renounce the historical quid pro quo, but leaving no viable revenue alternative. You add up everything that publishers are depending on to replace ads in the media economy, and nothing comes close, even altogether, to matching what we're losing in the ad revenue. Okay, is the problem criminals? They lure us constantly into rabbit holes of sleaze, interrupting us, infecting us, deceiving us, defrauding us, until we are at our wits' end, just desperate to free ourselves from their onslaught? Is it these folks? They're like gun manufacturers. They know their product is important when used judiciously by the right people in the right circumstances, but that it's ruinous to the entire society and many innocent victims when it's available to everybody. They may not be legally culpable for the damage, but they do have blood, or at least red ink, on their hands. Or how about us? We weren't born yesterday. We know that everything we visit online had a cost to produce, and that our part of the deal is the grudging acceptance of advertising. We know that, and anyone who sets up an ad blocker, even the ones spouting the empty-headed nonsense about content being free, knows in his heart of hearts that he is a freeloader. But it's like sharing from the all-you-can-eat salad bar items, or watching a second movie at the multiplex. It's easy, and it feels like a kind of righteous repudiation of the man. Plus, while perhaps evidence of poor citizenship, it is totally legal. It's nobody's fault. What publishers are experiencing, after all, is the logical outcome of technological change. The steam engine changed the economics of manufacturing, destroying the livelihoods of many a cobbler and seamstress. Yeah, the change unleashed some of the uglier dimensions of runaway capitalism, but who exactly is to blame? Aren't we merely seeing the convergence of technology, denial, opportunism, rationalization, strategic blunder, and human frailty to further undermine an economic sector already buffeted by digital revolution? Nobody is pure in this, but the one true culprit is inevitability. This had to happen. So, what to do about it? I suppose that's why we're here. Although the big thinkers are, like, just, don't worry, totally on top of the problem. Please be right. Yes. Oh, don't turn off the user. That's an excellent plan. Yeah, that's good thinking. We'll just, you know what we'll do? We're all here together. Let's just not turn off the user. You know what? While we're not turning off the user, here's a couple of other things we could try. Okay, that's not it. That's not it either. That's not it. Nope, that's the end. Yep. Did you ever go to a dance that was called a cotillion? Does that word sound familiar to you? It's a kind of a sudden word for a nice social event, and there's dancing involved. Cotillion, right? Uh-huh. Suddenly, I'm thinking of another meaning of the word I invented for an earlier slide, fucktillion. I am standing here dancing at my own fucktillion. So here's the hilarious slide series of jokes that I was going to follow the other things that we can do to, if we're just going to make the user experience better. We could alter the laws of time and space and economics. Magic beans could help if we could, we had magic beans, or suicide, or three other things that are equally logical to the notion of somehow magically making the user experience better. No CMO ever convened the team to say, how can we push more and more consumers away by feeding more ad units, no matter how irrelevant or repetitive, more intrusively. No publisher has ever said, how can we slow down the loading times on our pages and spike our users' data charges with a bunch of irritating crap that keeps them from viewing the stuff we publish and that they actually want to see? Dude, it's a structural problem, not solved with three-point plans. See, for one thing, nobody will look at an online or mobile ad unless the ad is jammed directly into their corneas, because why would they? Why? And secondly, because there is a nearly infinite glut of ad inventory, CPMs are so low that no publisher can make the nut without serving more and more and more units, each trying to slap the user upside the face for just an instant of attention. And the more the ads intrude, the more the slap-happy users install ad blockers. Duh. Yet until recently, improving the experience was also the stated strategy of the IAB, which had done all the research to corroborate the obvious. This is another slide that you won't see. Yeah, okay, that. Anyway, as a consequence of that, Randy, realizing that just imploring you all to make it a better experience for users was not going to do the trick, he decided to shift the blame. But it isn't robbery. I mean, how is it robbery? Whether sleazy opportunists or eco-activists, ad blockers are stealing nothing from anybody, not you or anybody else, at least any more than sunblock steals rays from the sun. And they aren't extortionists either, not even AdBlock Plus, to whom Randy refers. They are vigilantes roaming a lawless territory where robbers of your acquaintance do steal with impunity, where self-policing is a farce, and where, as a consequence, the citizens, like the us, are on the side of whoever is on their side, after having been abused for 20 years by advertisers, ad networks, and unscrupulous and craven publishers. We, the consumers, are just fed up. They're not robbers, they're more like the Taliban, providing order, however extreme, in a vacuum of legitimate authority. Here's where I have a fantastic Taliban slide that you're not going to see. So, oh, what a great slide. Take my word for it. If anyone wants to come up afterwards and see my script, I've got a nice image of the slide that's not on that screen. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, so let's see here. And this is what the AdBlock Plus says they do. Oh, never. Yeah, let's do. I'm sorry, I'm going to have just a small moment of silent sobbing. AdBlock Plus says acceptable ads are not annoying. This is the Taliban speaking. Acceptable ads do not disrupt or distort the page content we're trying to read. Acceptable ads are transparent with us about being an ad. Acceptable ads are effective without shouting at us. Acceptable ads are appropriate to the site that we are on. That's all you have to do to get whitelisted by AdBlock Plus, to get through the Taliban roadblock. Note, however, that the pure of heart over there in the AdBlock Plus caliphate think images within the ad are generally disqualifying. Images. Their adtopia is a cemetery of tombstone ads. There's also a question of who the hell are these people that are the arbiters of acceptability? Who died and made them boss? Maybe the Taliban analogy is a stretch, but these people, no images, they're in charge of the whitelist. It's like having vegans create the. But then, just when you think you can't hate anybody anymore, here comes another nemesis. And David, this is for you, wherever you are. the image that I cannot show you because it is not there, of Brave. Brave, the new browser that strips dense ads and trackers off the page and replaces them with its own advertising. The Newspaper Association of America said cease and desist. Brave's founder said nuh-uh, that it's merely offering consumers a better experience, and comes the question of how dare he impose his technology on your technology. Ad tech is going to keep defeating whatever it is that you do to defeat them, and thereupon will come another algorithm that defeats your defeating of what they're trying to defeat about your core business. And why do they do all of that? Ladies and gentlemen, here's the final hilarious slide that you will not see, because he can. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to get all your emails. I'm going to send you the freaking presentation so you can just see how cleverly designed it was and complete. Yeah, I did. Excuse me, John. I'll be doing the jokes this morning. Okay. All right, I'm going to bring the panel onto the stage. Eric, do you have a